Hi there, I'm natekokernot. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about A Course in Miracles' stance on all of us having split minds. Now, if you doubt that you might have a split mind, just think back to the last time that you couldn't make a decision. And that is evidence that you do indeed have a split mind. So what I want to talk about today is just how A Course in Miracles instructs us to deal with this. I'm going to start out with a passage from the text. This is chapter 5. Quote, "What you do not understand is that two voices speak for different interpretations of the same thing simultaneously, or almost simultaneously, for the ego always speaks first. Alternate interpretations are unnecessary until the first one has been made, and speaking itself was unnecessary before the ego was made. The ego speaks in judgment, and the Holy Spirit reverses its decisions, much as a Supreme Court has the power to reverse a lower court's decisions about the laws of this world." End quote. The thing I'd like to point out about that passage is the first line, where it says two voices speak for two different interpretations. It doesn't say decisions. That means it's not talking about behavior. We're not being guided to behave a certain way. We are being guided either by the ego or the Holy Spirit to see things in a certain way. We could think of the ego's glasses as fear-colored glasses, and we could think of the Holy Spirit's glasses as love-colored glasses. And in any moment, we're seeing the world either through one of these sets of glasses. Here's another passage from the Course. Quote, "The atonement and the separation began at the same time. When you made the ego, God placed in you the call of joy. This call is so strong that the ego always dissolves at its sound. That is why you can choose to listen to two voices within you. One you made yourself, and that one is not of God, but the other is given you by God, who asks you only to listen to it. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. He is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again." End quote. So in the middle of that passage, it was talking about how one voice was made by yourself and one was made by God. The one that you made by yourself, you can just as easily unmake. And that's basically what A Course in Miracles is guiding us to do. The one that given to us by God, the Holy Spirit, we can't trade that in, and we would be crazy to trade that in. That is truly the source of all of our joys in life, and the promise of eternal joy as well. So the biggest problem is learning to remember in moments when we are feeling emotionally triggered to ask for the Holy Spirit's interpretation of this moment. That's exactly what we're being asked to do by A Course in Miracles. And the training, which we do in calmer waters when we're not feeling a lot of emotional turbulence, could be the workbook for A Course in Miracles, or it could be another practice like thought vigilance. But the practice itself is designed to essentially rewire our minds so that we're more tuned into the channel of the Holy Spirit, which means essentially thought vigilance, which was my practice, is all about quieting the mind, not making more noise, not bringing new thoughts in that we thunk, but just creating some space and some silence so that the Holy Spirit, which I imagine probably is not that used to being listened to, doesn't always speak up when not listened to, it will speak up when we ask. In general, both the ego and the Holy Spirit are guiding us towards their plans for our salvation. They have different plans, very different plans. The ego's plan is to attain things from this world. It could be the perfect spouse, or the perfect car, the perfect boat, the perfect vacation, the perfect career, lots of success in life, great reputation, all of these things that in the Course in Miracles community we call false idols. And the Holy Spirit is just wanting you to park yourself in love for eternity and accept that that is who you are and find your joy from that. Quote, "Such is the ego's plan for your salvation. Surely you can see how it is in strict accord with the ego's basic doctrine, seek but do not find. For what could more surely guarantee that you will not find salvation than to channel all your efforts into searching for it where it is not?" End quote. So most of the people on this earth, the vast majority of them, are probably still looking for their salvation according to ego's plan. Uh, they're butting their heads up against walls, or they're attaining the things that they thought would bring them happiness and discovering they really didn't bring them happiness after all. Jim Carrey is a wonderful example of this. He has a great video. I could share it in the more section, and where he talks about his dream to become a millionaire by the time he was a certain age. And he actually achieved that dream, just like he thought he would. But what he discovered when he got there was it didn't make him any happier than he was before. In fact, he was probably more fearful because now he was afraid of losing all of that. So the ego's plan is basically a false plan. But most of us, because probably we don't even realize there is another choice, there is another way, we continue to listen to the ego and hope that that's eventually going to pan out for us. Now, most students of A Course in Miracles are probably like me in that they also came to a point in life where they felt like they had exhausted the ego's plan for salvation, like they had tried everything. They'd either been met with some huge disappointment in life or some shocking development, and threw their hands up in that moment and said, "There's got to be a better way." Which is precisely what Helen said to Bill on that fateful day in 1967 that heralded the dictation of A Course in Miracles just a couple months later. So looking for salvation or happiness in this world is essentially like looking for your keys in the living room when they're in the kitchen. And that's what A Course in Miracles is here to tell us. And then it is here to guide us into how to listen to the Holy Spirit, who actually has a really good plan. Now, there is another aspect to this condition that we have, this split mind condition as human beings. And that is that if we are in conflict with ourselves, which is essentially what a split mind entails, and projection is perception, which is also the metaphysics of Course in Miracles, then the conflict that we see out in the world or experience in the world is just a reflection of the conflict inside of us. So remember that passage I shared about how you made the ego and God gave you the Holy Spirit, and you can't trade that back in. You can't return it to the store. The only way to actually get rid of the inner conflict that is creating the outer conflict in our lives is if we start to unlearn the ego. And that brings me to the title of my book, How to Change the World by Changing Your Mind, which is basically what this whole project is for, to bring heaven to earth. It happens gradually on an individual level as you are doing either the workbook or some spiritual practice like thought vigilance, that the world does begin to be experienced by you as a more peaceful, conflict-free space. So that's kind of the feedback loop that is there to motivate us to keep on going, because ultimately, once we realize that what the Holy Spirit wills for us is perfect peace and perfect happiness, and that all of those false idols that we have been seeking for are not bringing us that, we're going to want to just go with the will of the Holy Spirit, which is God's will. So that's all for today. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will like and subscribe to this channel so that we can get this message out to more people. And I wish you a wonderful day full of blessings and miracles. Have a good day.